Hello, hello.
Hello, indeed. How's it going?
It is definitely going. How are you doing this morning? Oh shit, my camera's off.
I cannot complain. I've got my, morning coffee ready to go, representing the best golden girl, Dorothy Spornak there. And there's a reason for that. She has an excellent arc in the show where she goes through an experience of becoming diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome. You sound fine.
Okay, good, good.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna blame
Just 'cause
Creams and Bagel when I'm playing Valorant for telling me that I'm always quiet when I hop on this mic. All right. So, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure, yep. My name is Sunny. I go by InsomniaDoodles everywhere online. I look very young, but there's a reason for that. I'm actually 32. I've got a pituitary disorder, which is due to a rare disease called septo-optic dysplasia, which is a rare birth defect, which caused two other rare diseases, panhypopituitarism, which is said pituitary disorder, and optic nerve hypoplasia, which is a malformation of the optic nerve that has resulted in me being blind in both peripherals, so totally blind on the sides of my vision, and what vision I do have is worse than that of a senior citizen. So I can't obtain a driver's license, and eyesight is just generally real bad. But despite that, I'm an artist, and I enjoy video games, and virtual reality is a huge um, hobby of mine. When I discovered VR back in 2019, and I got my first headset, I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not with my vision issues, but I wanted to try it. Glad that I did because it has genuinely changed my life for the better, especially when I discovered a little something known as social VR, which I didn't even know was a thing back when I bought the headset. I bought it just to play Beat Saber, essentially. And Beat Saber is amazing. Don't get me wrong, I still play it a lot. But I've expanded into social VR, and that is where I do a lot of my activism now. And yeah, thanks for bringing up the website.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, there's
I was gonna bring that up. That this is
yeah.
the you said you're a part of this or
This is what I started.
okay.
This is Yes. So when I, did discover social VR, I connected with other folks within VR, obviously, as a social component, and discovered there's actually a really large community of folks in virtual reality who are living with disabilities and, chronic illness as well. Um, so I wanted to start a support group in VR because I didn't see one there for folks that have chronic illnesses. There were other support groups, like AA meetings happen regularly in virtual reality, as well as other like weight loss support groups and whatnot. So I started
Especially with the pandemic, right?
yes. Oh, actually, before the pandemic even was a thing, I'm really glad that I had VR throughout the pandemic.
Mm-hmm.
But I, even before then, there were some really great support groups meeting on there. But there was no support group for folks that have chronic illnesses or disabilities. So I decided to, put
Just
my
make
feelers
one.
out there and see if there was interest. Yes,
Yeah.
so I made one.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
and
the way to do it. I mean, I know it's all like bootstraps, but like still, like sometimes, especially if you have the ability, if no one else is doing it, sometimes it's just best to do it yourself, and then of course, move it to a more communal aspect. Something like this can't even operate without there being a community too, because that's the point of it.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there are a lot of really great educational experiences in VR. Like Notes on Blindness is excellent. It's a way for you to experience what it's like to live with a visual impairment. And also Traveling While Black is absolutely fantastic. Uh, Definitely two of my favorite educational VR experiences out there. The third probably being the Anne Frank House experience, where you can explore the attic. It's very well made.
Yeah, I just typed a quick message to
Oh,
my
sure.
mods in chat.
Good call. But yeah, I it was really a social, it was more of a selfish act when I created that support group because I was looking for that support community as well. I really needed that. And come to find out, there's definitely a need for it. There's a very large community of folks in VR that have chronic illnesses and disabilities. And that inspired me to make that Spoonie VR website because there are a lot of VR experiences out there that aren't very accessible when they could be. It's really not that hard to add closed captions or the ability to customize your controls or have the option to play with just one controller if you don't have, movement in one hand or whatever. There's a lot that VR developers could do to increase accessibility, and I wanted to encourage them to do that while also at the same time creating a resource hub for folks that have those disabilities so that they can see before they buy a product whether or not they'll actually be able to use it. So that's what Spoonie VR is all about.
Nice. I wouldn't call that selfish though, because like it's very weird to say that something is selfish because you want to be a part of a community, because you are
That's kind of
bringing
a
other
tongue in
people in.
cheek.
Yeah.
I was being a little facetious, but
Okay,
yeah,
I got you.
I get what you're saying
Yeah.
for sure.
I don't know. Certain things like stick out to me like that, and I just want to,
Mhm.
you know, uh, uh, just kind of make sure that people understand. Like, it's not
Appreciate
at
that.
all that sort of thing. If you're a part of a community and you want to create some sort of a community thing for a community you're a part of, like,
Yeah.
absolutely do that. You shouldn't
Mhm.
look down on that at all.
Mhm.
And not everybody has the ability to do it, but some people do.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
if you have the want, and you can find the right people to get involved with, to make the thing happen, then absolutely, because
Mhm.
there is a huge problem, uh, with a lot of voices not being able to get out.
Right.
Um, so, like, for example, how exactly would you go about like a someone who just wants to do, like, they don't want to appear on camera, but like they're mute or they're deaf, they can't
Right.
do it.
Yeah.
You
Right.
just can't
Yes.
do it.
Yeah. It's very complicated. Yeah.
Hmm.
And I'm definitely not an expert on, accessibility features and stuff. So I rely a lot on the community itself to share their input and, educate me as well as everybody else on what is needed for situations like that. For instance, actually, a real example that I can share with you is one of the folks that comes to my support group says that her husband, he's deaf in one ear and he really enjoys virtual reality, but whenever you're in a social VR experience, they do use spatial audio to make it more realistic. So if
Yeah,
somebody
the
is standing on your
7.1
side,
surround sound. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, which is really cool, but in
very
her
much
husband's
is.
case, if somebody's standing on his right side and talking to him, he can't hear what they're saying, and there's no way to override that.
Mhm.
So, we reached out to the community and asked, what can he do to fix that? And folks were fantastic about responding and saying, here, there's this audio jack that you can plug into your headset that will override that and make everything mono. So you'll hear it on both sides, regardless of the spatial audio. So things like that, like working together with the community is, that's the important thing here. That's how we're going to fix a lot of these issues and raise awareness for the existence of them.
Awesome, awesome. That is definitely crazy, crazy important.
Mm-hmm.
Voice of the voiceless, and also giving them some fun games to play. It's like,
Hell
hey,
yeah, yeah,
gamers, rise up for disabled rights. Like, come on. Oh, one
yeah.
thing, I was talking to somebody before my stream. I was telling them what that I was going to be interviewing you about this. And they brought up an interesting point that I wanted to kind of uh, double back on, because uh, especially when you're dealing with marginalized communities,
Mhm.
there can be some sort of dehumanizing language, and I want to make sure that my language is
Yes,
correct. Uh,
I appreciate
she
that.
she called attention to me saying disability rights or disabled rights, and she's like, we want, maybe you want more humanized language. Like, she works as a therapist, so she is pretty up to date on a lot of stuff like that. And I've always said disabled rights because that's what I've heard said
Right.
within the community from people who are disabled.
Yep.
Um,
And
how
yeah,
you navigate that?
that's definitely an issue. Even and I use the term disabled all the time. I'm not uncomfortable with it. There's definitely a lot of folks that disagree with that. Um, it's very complicated, and I think that a lot of communities, with totally different terms, have sort of the same similar infighting issue with that. The way that I see it, there's nothing wrong with saying that you have a disability. If you don't have the ability to do something, you're not able to do it. Saying that calling yourself saying that you can't use the word disabled is like admitting or trying to say that those limitations don't exist, which can be even more harmful in my
Hmm.
opinion. I think that it's better to acknowledge that you do have these real limitations, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I think part of the stigma related to disability in general is the fact that we're expected to, like you said, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and, get over your disability or, overpower it in some way, and if you're not doing that, you're somehow lesser or you're not doing it right. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you have limitations. And the
Hmm.
sooner that you admit that you have them, the more you can come to terms with the fact that you do have those limitations and learn to work within those parameters and be more kind to yourself. That way, you're not shaming yourself for things that are totally out of your control. So, while I understand why some folks don't want to call themselves disabled and don't like that term, I embrace it. I don't have a
Hmm.
problem with it, and that's just my personal opinion, and I respect the opinion of folks that would refuse or refer to not call themselves disabled. That's
Hmm.
fine, and I'll respect you by not calling you disabled if you don't want to be called that.
Same,
But that's
same.
my 2 cents on the issue. Yes.
Yeah, I just want to, you want to make sure that
Yeah.
you're up to date on your language. And like
Very
what she had
important.
brought up was saying more disabled people's rights, to make it more
Mm.
personalized, people first language, um, which I definitely like the idea and agree with it. It's just like I always with language, I always try to find the easiest way to do things, the things that are most comfortable, because of my ADHD, I have a difficulty adjusting to certain things like that, um,
Mm.
because I will constantly forget and will default to the comfortable, which
Mm-hmm.
has caused
Yeah.
some issues in the past regarding like pronouns. Like obviously I have no problem
Sure.
using they them pronouns, but for some reason my brain will automatically go to
The
like,
default.
yeah. I do
Yeah.
that with usernames too. I do that with usernames. There are some names that for some reason they read masculine to me, and I'm always surprised that they turn out to be feminine. Like yours, for example, I kept
Yeah, oh
forgetting.
yeah, I get confused as a guy all the time, which is totally fine. Like honestly, if people call me a guy, I just let it go. It doesn't bother me. I tend to use she, they pronouns anyway.
Hmm.
But not to bring the whole sexism issue into the conversation.
I mean, I
It's
mean,
always there.
no, I
But
mean it's
it,
very similar. Like
yes, less creepy comments when they think you're a guy.
yeah. Plus Twitch is a very much a majority male
Yes.
platform. Uh,
Yes.
like that's a whole thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
gamers do better. Um, like we need to be more open to other communities, and there's different things that we
Hmm.
can do to be open. And we have a tendency, especially on this site, to gamify and team sport everything out. So the sexism just becomes a part of the game, because the very second you have someone who is feminist and has a more extreme view of their feminism, not like extreme as in like,
Wanting basic rights.
yeah. No, I mean
No,
just like,
I'm joking, but
I
yeah.
gotcha. But more so like, different concepts like discussing toxic masculinity and
Mm.
even toxic femininity, I've heard is a thing that's starting to get discussed, and it's all based and saying that it's all based in misogyny. Like there's a lot of people who hear that, especially among the male debate bros, who will push back and be like, sort of like the Professor Flowers thing regarding uh, uh, black nationalism, black separatism, where you're vocalizing this concept that is extreme, but not to the point where it would actually be damaging to people, but bringing about concepts that people may be just uh, uncomfortable with because they haven't thought of it that way, and they're going to push back because they refuse to buy into the original concept in the first place. Um, and I think that's a big reason why we have these problems on the site with welcoming in marginalized people. And here I am, another
Mm.
white guy,
True.
doing that. I always recognize the irony of me being yet another white political streamer, male, cis, straight, doing that same very thing. Um,
And that's out of your control, but I do
yeah,
appreciate the recognition.
of course, always, always. Like
Yeah.
never any streamers in chat, any budding political streamers in chat that aren't talking. Never speak for a community. When you're giving your view,
Mm.
always say
Yes.
that it's my view and this is what I was told, rather than saying, "Well, this is," and because there's as you as we talked about with the language deal, um,
Yes.
there's disagreement sometimes. This is what I've been told. Largely, this is what I've been led to believe, rather than this is, as a matter of fact. Um, so now that I got that kind of settled and figured out, kind of with just you as far as the language is concerned,
Right. Yeah.
let's.
Yep. And that's an issue that I've seen many arguments on Twitter over.
Oh yeah,
Just whether or not we should use the term
especially on Twitter.
disability. And yeah, oh, I mean, Twitter's the place to go when you want frivolous arguments.
Yeah,
Not that that argument is frivolous, but Twitter is just really good at those.
good old negative engagement drives up engagement and is good for advertisers, as we all learned in
Indeed,
the
indeed.
Facebook leak, right?
Oh man, that's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like with my interest in virtual reality and Facebook being the Meta, being the leading brand in VR right now, I have a lot of internal issues with that. But damn, it's so good. I just
Yeah,
oh, I
yeah,
gotta put up with my Meta overlords. Yeah.
yeah. It's also that, and I've talked about this before. I went over this thread a while ago with somebody who works in neuroscience, who was like a part of one of the groups that isn't controlled by like Elon Musk, developing different ways to manipulate and work the technology into the brain to help with things like disabilities.
Sure, that's
And
the exciting thing. There's always a takeaway though.
yeah, and the takeaway was he also brought up that with VR in the same regard, that you get these giant companies or these big whales like Musk and Facebook hopping on to push this technology, and they often do it in a very shitty way, and they soak
Yes.
up a bunch of funding, and then when their company fails because it fails spectacularly, uh, because they didn't have the technology or the interest in the first place, it just completely soaks up any interest in providing grants after the fact. Like,
Right.
if Meta is a shit show like it appears it's going to be and it fails, what could very likely happen, and I hope doesn't, is it's going to get a little bit more difficult to find funding um, after the fact, because people are going to go, well, this is the same thing as Meta. This is the same thing as this that I saw this big company
Yeah.
do and it failed. So why would I want to put my money into something that's going to fail?
Right. And that's something that I'm worried about in terms of, the future of VR because, like I mentioned the support group that I run, or the support community that I started, we have a support group that's been meeting every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on AltSpace, which is a VR platform, for over 2 years. We just celebrated our 2-year anniversary.
For
But at
those
the
who are
last meetup,
interested,
we
hit up
yeah, I'll let you
Insomnia
know.
about this, and you're
Yeah,
invited.
yeah, everybody's welcome, of course. But at the last meetup, we had a new member join us, and he shared that he is blind enough that he has to walk with a cane, and he has a really hard time just seeing things in general. But the way his eyes work, when he puts on his VR headset, because the lenses are so close to his face, he can see perfectly. Well, not perfectly, but he can see. So he uses it as an accessibility tool. He can, browse the internet through the web browser, and of course enjoy virtual reality experiences as well. And if Meta tanks and nobody wants to fund it because Meta got its grubby, dirty, sorry Meta, but change your practices, dirty paws all over it and hurt its image, that sucks for that guy because he might not be able to afford the more expensive VR headsets. Like the Valve Index is over $1,000. It's a really amazing piece of hardware, but not many people can afford that. Even the HP Reverb U2, about $600 headset. It's expensive. Um, the Meta Quest sells for $299. That's more affordable for folks.
Yeah,
And
and
if they tank and people lose access to that accessibility feature, that sucks.
yeah, and just kind of thinking where my head goes, because I have a friend who has a oh god, what is the fucking one he has? It doesn't really matter. Um, he has a VR headset, and I know that they have external cameras
Hmm.
to see.
They're not great. That's just for
No,
tracking, but the cameras are there though, and they do see your room. So I can
yeah,
understand like if you're going like the creepy route with that. I get
no,
it.
no. I'm more so thinking like how that could actually benefit someone like that
Oh,
person with the
oh sure.
nearsightedness, because
We
then
have better technology than that though.
yeah.
Like I mean, I see where you're going with that for sure, but we already have glasses that basically do that.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Well,
yeah, which is it's a lot more simplified and a lot more affordable, and insurance will cover those. So,
and now I know. And that's
yep,
why I asked the question.
we're learning
That's
things.
very good to know. Um,
Yeah, but I get what you're saying though, and that's
yeah.
very wise using those tools for those things.
Okay. Cool. Cool. All right. So one of the things I've always been curious about, especially in specifically, we're going to talk U.S. Policy. I've heard about the extreme difficulty that people who have disabilities that aren't like visible or like extreme, like say,
Mm.
obviously deafness or blindness, um, that it's really difficult to get approved for disability status in this country.
Yes, and this is something that I can actually speak on personally. Now I mentioned that I'm blind in both peripherals, which is true. But I really don't consider that part of my disability to be the most debilitating part of it. The most
Mhm.
debilitating part of my condition is the pituitary disorder that I have, actually. I so my body doesn't make the hormones necessary for survival and basic day-to-day functioning. So I have to take hormones in the form of like pills and a daily injection every day just to stay alive and keep functioning. Treatment isn't a cure, it's not perfect. So my hormone levels are not perfectly balanced, and because of that, I do experience really debilitating symptoms from time to time. It can be anything as simple as just, feeling weak in my muscles, to visible tremors in my hands, to vertigo that is so intense that even if I'm laying down, the world still feels like it's spinning, and there's nothing that I can do but rest when that happens. And if you're, I mean, looking at me, I mean, I don't look disabled at all. I look, fairly healthy. I'm all right. So when I when I had to face the fact that I wasn't able to work anymore, I did try to work for a while. I actually rather enjoyed working at the grocery store that I worked in for a while. And then my health got so bad that it was very clear that my body couldn't handle it, and I decided to seek disability. That was a very long and difficult 2-year journey for me. A lot of folks have to fight for a lot longer than I had. Um, but even in that amount of time that I put into it, I had to experience the really dehumanizing, painful, just endeavor that they put you through when you're trying to seek disability. They automatically assume that anybody who is applying for any sort of assistance like this is just trying to game the system. They think that you're just, lazy and you don't want to work and you're just trying to get a free buck from Uncle Sam. So they treat you that way, whether you're disabled or not. Having an invisible disability makes that even more difficult, especially when you're trying. I had to get a disability lawyer to help me, and even he was, of course, he has to be very judgmental and discerning to make sure he gets paid in the end, right? He doesn't get paid unless he wins the case, so he's only going to take cases that he thinks he's going to win. So some of the questions and comments that he had made to me, his client, were very hurtful. Actually drove me to have to seek therapy, which is turned out to be great. Therapy is amazing. Go to
It
therapy if
is.
you need it, please.
Agreed.
It really
Agreed.
helped me learn to cope with my conditions. It was amazing, but it was such a painful experience, and yeah, I can definitely talk more about each aspect of that, from applying for disability to the automatic denial that everybody gets the first time. Everybody gets denied, regardless of your level of disability. I don't know why they do this, other than to perhaps just to weed out the lazy people that don't want to file it again. But I mean, the amount of hoops that they make disabled people jump through is just mind-boggling, from beginning to end with that. And I'd be happy to go into more detail about each part. But the things that I definitely want to make sure we cover today are the restrictions that they put on folks that have obtained SSI benefits,
Hmm.
such as the assets limit and the marriage penalty. Those are some serious issues that I
Yeah,
really want to make
yeah,
light.
I've heard about
Um,
that. Yeah.
yes, yes. But yeah, anything that you want to ask me about, please feel free, and I'd be happy to go into more detail. Otherwise, I'll just talk for 2 hours straight, and you won't get another word in.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, it works out if you're able to kind of carry it because I try not to interrupt, but I also when I have questions, I gotta ask them because my
Oh, please do. Yeah.
ADHD, I'll forget. Like I had a
Oh, get in
question.
there. Please interrupt me.
I had a question and I completely forgot it.
Oh, shoot.
Um,
Sorry.
no, that's not your fault. That's on me. That's on me. Like, but
Just
if you
don't be afraid to interrupt me. I'll be okay.
okay, absolutely. I'll go ahead and do that. I just don't want you to feel like you're being interviewed by a fucking debate bro or anything like
Oh
that.
no, no, it's fine.
Like,
I've existed on the internet for a
excuse
while.
me.
I'll be fine. Yeah, I've been
Quick
there.
correction. No. Um, but
Actually.
yeah. Let me see if I can remember where I was going with that. Oh, the initial denial thing. I think
Mhm.
it definitely comes from like this sort of business mindset. Because we've began this thing for a while, like the sort of idea of the CEO president having these business leaders run all these government organizations. I think it comes from the same place that we get from our private insurance companies. Like I always try to describe it as they're constantly trying to get out of paying by making you jump through
Yeah.
hoops, which is
Oh,
why
that's another thing I can rant about. Yeah.
yeah. Which is why overhead is the most expensive thing for providers. Like what's costs them the most amount of money is you have to literally fax physical copies to and from, even though we all run on EMRs
Mm.
now. Like I've experienced this myself. A whole system running on electric medical records, but we still have to operate with paper ones to please the insurance company and fax shit to and from. And that's a shit ton of money.
Ridiculous.
That's a shit ton of money for printing paper, for paper itself,
Mm.
collating, the big ass copy machines all over the place. It's unbelievable how that works, and it's much cheaper to just do EMRs everywhere and run everything digitally, and maybe have like some form of paper backup, just like
Yeah.
elsewhere that you every now and then just kind of print, put stuff in, rather than it being a continuous everyday thing for every appointment. So
Yeah.
I think that's where that comes from, where
I agree.
they're just trying to make it more difficult for you so that you'll give up.
Yes. Yes, and that's exactly what it feels like the entire way through the disability process. They're just trying to discourage you, which is it's heartbreaking because I mean, I was lucky that I had enough support that I wasn't going to starve to death or, suffer from serious medical issues while waiting. But there are people who literally die waiting for their disability claim to be approved just because they can't afford to sustain themselves during that waiting process.
Yeah, and that is why we fight. That is the type
Yes.
of reason why we fight for correcting and making these situations easier. It really
Yeah.
shouldn't be this difficult. I've thought
No.
about a couple times because of my knee, looking into disability, but then I hear
Mm.
all the horror stories, and I just go, I can't. Plus, I'm already married. I couldn't deal with the
Oh yeah.
with that
Yeah.
the
The marriage penalty.
yeah, and also
You
the
want to
other
get into
one.
that?
Yeah, let's start with the marriage one.
Okay, I actually have a video, if you'd like to watch it, that I found on YouTube that's excellent, that covers it very well. It's brief, and let me get that for you
How
if you'd
brief
like
is
to
it?
use that. You can just watch the first like 2 minutes of the video, and the lady explains it very, very well. It's the video itself is Looks like it's 8 minutes long, but you only need
Oh,
to
that
watch
seems
the
good.
first couple of seconds. Yeah. So
Okay,
is it okay if I put it in the chat or do you need me to put it in the Discord?
you can put it in the chat.
Okay. Here's the video.
All right, and so we can kind of live react. I'll stream it to the Discord. Let me just go ahead.
So the video starts with just explaining what the marriage penalty is, and then it shares some actual patient experiences with the marriage penalty from folks that have decided not to get married because of the penalty, and folks that have been negatively impacted by the penalty because they got married.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, I started streaming it, so if you want to pull
Yeah, I
that
got.
up, and you can let me know where you want me to pause if you got a comment in there.
Sure. All right. Good to go.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
The SSI marriage penalty. Before we understand what that is, it's important to understand what SSI is. Now, according to the Social Security Administration, SSI, which stands for Supplemental Security Income, is a federal program that helps people with disabilities and people who are elderly who have little or no income. And what it is it's a basic cash assistance program, and it helps pay for necessities like housing and clothing and food. The marriage penalty is when people who get married or present themselves as married lose part of their SSI benefits just because they get married. Now, when I say present themselves as married, this refers to a group of people who are not even legally married, but who are sort of publicly declaring themselves as married. For instance, by putting one of the people in the couple down on a lease as their spouse. So even people who aren't legally married will still be penalized because they're presenting themselves as married to the community. Now, the amount that people lose in their benefits varies. If you have two SSI recipients in a couple whose only source of income is SSI, they automatically lose 25% of their benefits. In other situations where maybe only one of the people in the couple is getting SSI or there's another source of income, the amount that you lose varies. But what is constant is that when you get married or you present yourself as married, you automatically lose some of your benefits. Losing any amount of their benefits can be detrimental. And as you'll hear with the stories of the people in this movie, a lot of time people feel like they have to choose between either love or financial survival, which is a really unfortunate situation for anybody to be in. The stories that you'll hear about in this video are all told by people who've been affected by the marriage penalty. Some of them will be told by people who have gotten married despite the marriage penalty and have dealt with the financial repercussions of it. And others are stories told by people who have avoided marriage precisely because of the marriage penalty. But all the stories you will hear will be told on a first-hand basis by people who have been dramatically impacted by the marriage penalty.
So this definitely gets to the question of the assumption here in them cutting the benefits is because they think that they have a caretaker. But what this does, what this can do especially, is it can penalize disabled people who want to get married to each other.
Right. Yes.
Makes that
Yeah.
next to
Yeah.
impossible.
You'll be penalized whether or not your spouse is disabled as well. So even if you're both disabled, you will both lose part of your benefits just because you got married. Now, to put this into context, to give you kind of an example of how much SSI is, because some folks might not realize how little SSI really is, I get about $800 a month.
Jeez.
A month. The entire month. And so losing 25% of that, yeah, I just there are times where I can't get. There's some medically necessary supplements that I need because my body doesn't absorb nutrients well enough on its own. There are times where I have foregone getting those supplements, which I can't get through a prescription. I have to pay out of pocket for those. I've foregone getting those because I've run out of money. And we'll talk more about the limits on, how much money that you're allowed to make, like in terms of other income on the side, later on. But the thing that I really want to point out here is consider a normally healthy couple, both with that both people go to work and they have decent paying jobs. You could just say minimum wage and they get by. Imagine if one of those people, like, just imagine if because they got married, their paychecks were cut. Does that make sense? No. Just it drives me insane because they're seeing folks who are disabled as God, I don't know, I don't really I have a hard time putting this part into words, maybe because I'm just so frustrated by it. But I can't understand why they would think that being married is a good enough justification to take away part of a paycheck. Does that make sense?
It's an old assumption that, especially for more feminine types, to assume that you have like a caretaker, and that it's somebody who's going to be able to afford to take care of you, like this old school idea of the other partner stays at home and the other partner works, like ignoring the fact that these days you cannot survive off of one income. You absolutely cannot.
Exactly, yes. That's the point that I was trying to make, but I was so flustered I couldn't. So no, thank you for putting those words out there.
And I wanted to do the little math there. I'm sure you saw the calculator on my screen to just show how much 25% is. 25% off of your already meager $800 a month. That's $600. That's $200 off, and that's insane. And that's acceptable to this society. I just 25% is a huge amount of money.
Yeah, we can actually, if you want to, this would be a great segue to move on to the income limitations that folks on SSI have imposed on them.
If you would like to, is there anything more you want to discuss about the marriage thing, or?
If you want to play some of the patient experiences, you're welcome to. Otherwise, I mean, folks can always watch that video on their own as well. I don't want to take up a lot of your stream just by playing another video if you don't want to do that. But
no, we can do that. We can go ahead and show that.
Yeah, I think it's important to share these stories too. So I'm happy to let that play for a little bit if you want to.
Okay.
Me is one of the rules and regulations of the Bible that people should be married, but with the SSI penalty, it's making it hard for me and my girlfriend to really get married because I would lose my benefit half of it.
Jesus Christ. I just wanted to pause it really quick. I don't like calling her a landlord because she doesn't rent her house to us for profit. But I like saying my friend is not. She is our friend, but also, yeah, technically landlord. She has a brother that's disabled, and she had a mother that was disabled before she passed away. And she herself is was trying to look into disability benefits for herself because she has debilitating periods. I forget what
like endometriosis.
I don't think it was that. It was something else related to that. I can't remember what she called it, but she so she knows the system because she got some benefits from when she took care of her mom, and she still gets benefits for taking care of her brother. Her brother, what is it? Not multiple sclerosis. But he's permanently disabled. He's nonverbal. you know, he's not going to be someone who could take care of himself ever, and doesn't. If he were to find somebody that he were to have that connection with, like, it's just not going to happen. And imagining, like, we already feel bad enough for people who have trouble finding love. Like, there's some, you know, I'm one of those people that has like some sympathy for the incel community and just wish they would stop getting in their own way. Ultimately, because yes, I don't condone the violence or any of the shit they say, but like, I understand the feeling as somebody who wasn't traditionally good with dating when I was before I met Glam. People forget we've been together a long time. And you know, so I have that sort of sympathy when I think about like people who are not able to find love.
Yeah, that loneliness.
Yeah. And a lot of people will often talk about that and be like, you know, oh, you know, yeah, it's so terrible. But if you're disabled, you're doing that at a complete detriment to your survivability.
Yeah. And like Anna and Marty's story here, like they touch on that pretty much exactly.
Okay. I'll
Like
play it.
their experiences, yeah.
Now,
That's right.
we've been married now for 11 and a half years.
Yeah, they said they'd been together
Marty
for
and
50
Anna,
years
how has
before
the
that.
marriage penalty
Okay.
affected you since you got married?
It sounded like he said that they been married for 11 years, right?
Yeah, they've been together, I think they said, for over 50 years, and then they got married 11 years ago.
Okay, just making sure I heard that right.
Yep.
Married.
That's
There are subtitles on the video too, if turning those on would help.
It's
Yeah, okay.
like for what we usually would get from SSI, they only give us less than what we would always get.
What do you use your SSI money for? What does it help you pay for?
Mostly it's to live in that house that I'm living in now, and also for the food, and it's also for to buy clothing.
Before we got to be fiance, we were girlfriend and boyfriend from the
Yeah, the
beginning.
closed captionings aren't great, are they?
How long have you
No.
That's something we need to work on.
Yeah. If a creator puts a transcript in, it's dead on.
I always try to do that.
Yeah,
But
they should have did
these,
it
these
here.
automatic those are not good. I apologize.
It did help with some of it, and I was able to go,
Yeah.
okay, that's not Missouri. He said SSI benefits. Like,
Right.
come on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, speaking of disability issues, practice.
Exactly, praxis. Yeah. Yeah. You ever if anyone even doubts at all that disabled people are treated second class, like, nobody considers this stuff. Like, you don't hear a lot of talk about this.
Oh, and I
mean,
could go
they're
into a whole
absolutely
big
shoot.
rant about how it took a global pandemic for accessibility to be brought to the forefront.
Yeah. You and me would hit a crossroads at that, because I feel that way a lot about like people's focus on the Flint water crisis. I just chewed somebody out on Twitter just yesterday for trying to use us as part of a joke, and I'm just like, hey, I get that you're well-meaning, but like, you haven't checked up on us in 5 fucking years. You don't know what our needs are now. You don't know what the conditions are with our water, because you haven't bothered to check. But you sure do like to use us as like an argumentative tactic. Could you like not, or if you're actually interested in helping us, maybe check in with us every now and then, because oh man, I get upset with the left about a lot of things, but I try not to get too upset, because I understand that We can't concentrate on all things at all times. But certain
Right.
things like that just like gnaw at my soul, because it's like, what have you done for us, and what have you actually looked into about us? Because like whenever I bring up the water crisis, every single leftist I talk to, or they find out I'm from Flint and they ask me about it, they have no idea, and I have to do a long thing where I update them on what the conditions are now, when they could just as easily find any story. There have been multiple local stories that come out and describe what the conditions are. They're a little bit more, they paint a more positive image of what's going on, but you can get a general idea of what's going on, and it can answer a lot of people's questions instead of just waiting to come across the one of a very few streamers out of Flint who talk about it. And I'm pretty sure I'm the only leftist political streamer in Flint. I haven't come across anybody else. So like that whole thing where there's only a focus on it when there's
When it
something
affects the general population.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Black Lives Matter.
Mm.
There's been demonstrations that have been going on continuously since the summer of 2020, but because it's out of the news, you rarely see anybody talking about that.
Right.
There
It
was
becomes a fad.
there
which
was
is sick.
the guy who was recently killed,
Yeah.
and again, literally doing nothing wrong in Minneapolis, in the same city.
I know. Lessons are never learned.
Yeah, like,
Ugh.
and it was like a thing for like maybe a day, and people stopped talking about it. Like that's I see fucking every single day Benjamin Dixon posting about all these demonstrations that are going on, and I try to share them when I see them, because I don't see anybody else doing that. And if there's one problem with the left, there is a constant focus to demean people who maybe their language isn't up to date. Maybe they said something that didn't take into account a certain community. But the very second you're like, hey, you were all Black Lives Matter in summer of 2020. Where are you now? You were all posting about Flint not having clean water back in 2016. Where are you now? You're all about rights for disabled people. You're all about that. But when have you actually said anything, or actually looked into what they need now, gone into detail over it? And that was something that I myself was trying to get myself out of. To like, I've been trying to. There's been a couple of people have offered to come on in the past, and just haven't. For whatever reason, I'm not worried about it.
Sure.
To talk about this issue, but at the very least, because of what streaming is, there are disabled leftist streamers who talk about this all the
Hey,
time.
that's me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't even know you streamed. There, Jesus.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I hadn't for a while there. I had some health issues that came up, and I was volunteering for a nonprofit that took up a lot of my time and energy. I just recently stepped down from that position, so I've just recently, like this week, gotten back to streaming, and I've got big plans. I'll be doing some talk shows within what I call the Spoonie community, folks that have chronic illnesses and disabilities. I can explain spoon theory later on if you want me to, but
I think
that's
I think I know what that is, but
oh, really? That's awesome.
if you want to do that really quick,
Sure.
yeah, because
Actually, I have.
I use spoon theory for. I'm pretty sure that I use spoon theory regarding my ADHD.
Yes, 1 second here, and I actually have a video that I can share with you that I made talking about spoon theory, and rather than trying to flounder and say that video word for word myself, I'll just, or the information of the video word for word myself, I'll just post a link, and you can play it on stream if you want.
All right, let me just do a thing really quick.
Sure. Here it is. It's just, I did, Okay. So this is on TikTok. I don't normally TikTok. I did this last for Invisible Disabilities Week. I posted a short video every day for that week.
If this is your first time with us,
Oh yeah, there's my. I just posted that trailer last night. I had so much fun making that the trailer on my Twitch channel.
I need a trailer. I need to do that.
It's fun. Like there's a 60-second time constraint on the video, which kind of makes it difficult, but I think it made my video better. Trying to stick within that time frame. I'm getting off topic. Anyway,
No, that's
Spoon
all right.
Theory. If you click on the link in the chat, that video will explain it.
Okay, let me just. This is what I should have did in the first place. But I was diddling around with other stuff.
Fine.
Did I spell that right? I didn't. God. I reversed the N and the M. I knew I was going to do that. God damn it.
It happens, man. I wonder sometimes if I don't have like a touch of dyslexia because I do that so often, but I don't want to self-diagnose.
One more time with feeling.
Thanks, man. Appreciated.
One more time with feeling, because I usually what I used to do, they used to not count the @ symbol in there, because I used to easily be able to just do the @ symbol, and then I could pull it up and I wouldn't have to worry about
right.
Typos.
Typos.
I also, my screen that I use for all my OBS stuff is dying, so like the backlighting where my chat is and everything is really bad.
I've got a monitor that I'm not using, but my partner uses that has that same issue.
Yeah, we need to get another one. Yeah, let's watch this.
Is it an LG?
LG? No, it's a it's an old Dell one. All right. Oh, did this thing I hate about TikTok? Oh, no, it didn't start with.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of TikTok either, but it's a good video, so.
Okay.
For day 3 of Invisible Disabilities Week, I want to talk about spoons. The concept of spoons as a symbol for energy was first introduced by Christine Miserandino on ButYouDon'tLookSick.com. Needing some kind of tangible symbol, she grabbed a handful of spoons and said, "This is your energy. You wake up each day with a random number of spoons. Some days you may wake up with no spoons at all. Simply getting out of bed takes a spoon. Other tasks might take 2 spoons. Even doing things you enjoy costs spoons. At some point, you're going to completely run out of spoons, so you have to make choices about what you're able to do, something most healthy people never even have to consider." Spoon theory became very popular among the chronic illness community, and many folks with chronic illnesses refer to themselves as spoonies. If you're a D&D nerd like me, you might relate more to the concept of spell slots as a way to explain energy management with a chronic illness. Spellcasters in D&D have a limited number of spell slots to control how many spells they can cast between rest periods, and once you've spent all your spell slots, you can't cast any more until you get sufficient rest. D&D is pretty relatable as someone with a chronic illness in other ways as well, because every day you're rolling the dice and you never know when it's going to be a crit. I like to use a calendar to track my daily energy levels so that I can monitor trends and the severity of my symptoms. I use different colored stickers to indicate.
Yeah, no, it is exactly what I thought it was. Yeah, no, I use that a lot. Like yesterday, I had I was running damn near negative spoons. From the
negative
moment...
spoons territory is never good.
yeah, no, it was real bad. I hadn't been that bad off in a while, and I had to take care of a 1-year-old all day. A 1-year-old that's TV.
Man, some
it...
days I am grateful that I can't have children. Like,
oh man,
thank you for having a pituitary disorder, because I couldn't handle it. I love kids, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm happy to spoil kids in my family, but it seems like a lot. Yeah,
I ended up finding like 2 videos and showing my wife when she got home, to kind of explain like what sort of difficulties I was having, because me trying to explain it was just, it's not that it wasn't making any sense, it's just that it wasn't coming across in the right way, and I found people who were better at explaining it than I could. And
that's why spoon theory took off so much, because we really didn't have a very good analogy to explain to healthy people what it's like to have energy constraints.
Yeah, and everybody understands that.
Right.
Like, the more detail that I wanted to get out there was like specifically with the ADHD, because there's still so much, like, not understanding that. And I'm still new to recognizing it. Used to be that I just was like, I feel awful and I don't know why, and why do I feel like shit, and and everybody being mad at me because I'm unhappy and unable to be happy, and they're just like, why aren't you? Now I know why. Like I can kind of manage it out and kind of recognize from the second I wake up, okay, how much energy do I have to spend? How many spoons do I have to spend today? And I can keep track of that. When I start to feel like I'm running low or need the gas up, I can step back from things, and it's
Right.
It's helped a ton. I love spoon theory. It's great.
Oh
So,
yeah, me too.
So
But yeah,
explaining that to
the
my
spoonie
wife.
community.
Yeah,
Yes.
explaining that to my wife was interesting because like I showed her this video, and it was called. Let me pull it up really quick. Like pull up just the name of it because it's really good for anybody who has ADHD to show their partners who don't understand.
I've got a friend. She's not in the chat, but she's watching your stream right now, and she was just recently diagnosed with ADHD. So she's been struggling with a lot of the same things that you're talking about. So I feel like she'll probably really enjoy this.
Yeah, I'm not going to play it. Oh, well, it's only 5 minutes. Nah, I'm not. We stacked like videos on videos right now, so I'm not going to play it right now. But I'll put it in chat. But it's pretty short. It's called An ADHD Experience, a fictional depiction of how hard it can be. Like the worst. Basically, ADHD at its worst. It talks about like difficulties at work. It talks about all sorts of things, and like I use that to kind of explain to my wife like what I was going through, that from the second I woke up, like my brain was just like, all this stuff you wanted to do today, no. and I ended it by telling her that like I essentially feel like absolute shit, have too much to do, I'm both overwhelmed by the shit I have to do and don't want to do any of it, and there's literally no reason other than my brain is saying no.
Executive dysfunction, is that the thing? That's what it's called? Okay. I just recently learned that term.
She totally understood it, and she was just like,
awesome.
I had to kind of explain to her something else about it, because she was like, I now kind of feel bad for you. I was like, well, that doesn't help either, because like, I want to constantly please people too, which is a part of ADHD too, because it's just a whole thing. Like I don't know, that's the way I try to like relate to things that I'm not a part of, by like relating it to something I think is tangentially.
There's some crossover. There's definitely some crossover, because ADHD is definitely something that's not very well understood even within like the neurodivergent community. Like folks, there's a lot of judgment, and folks with ADHD tend to just, well, for example, like when I was growing up, I was always, people around me always had this assumption that folks that have ADHD just have a hard time paying attention to things. It goes way deeper.
I mean, we
than that.
do,
but there's still that. Well, that's part of it for sure, but it goes way deeper than that. It's seriously, like it impacts the way that your brain functions, right? So it's a lot deeper than just oh look, squirrel, even though that is part of it. But
yeah, it's not just squirrel brain. It's like, oh man, I was like going over something in my head last night. It's like it's squirrel brain.
Your emotions.
It's squirrel brain on top of also swinging back and forth from that to I must. The way I said it, I don't know why I was thinking about this way. It's just how my brain works. Like you go from squirrel brain to I must direct an exact replica of the Sistine Channel using my own cum. Like that's where my brain went.
Right. Like an extreme focus sort of thing, right?
Yeah, and that happens to me a lot. Really big with like computer issues. I've ignored my whole family for like a whole week, like almost, off and on, obviously. But like, because I wanted to fix a computer problem I was having, and then it wound up being I fixed that problem, and then I needed to fix the computer downstairs because I wanted that to be fixed in the same way because I learned what I learned here, just so I could reach that point where I was proud of myself that I fixed it. And the whole time I was like, when was the last time you ate? When was the last time you went to the bathroom? You know,
Erica,
you need
I
to
know you're
take your
watching and
child.
relating to this right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And oh man, that happens too much. And I try not to, knowing what it is now, I'm able to kind of like call it out. It's still really difficult
Sure,
to
when you can
stop.
put a label on things, it makes it so much easier to cope with.
It really does. It really
Yeah.
does. Because
And
it's
that's
like,
why spoon theory is awesome.
yeah. I'm sorry. I got really, I got
No,
hyper
no,
focused
I
on spoon
understand.
theory because I love it. It's great.
Right. Yes, yes. Absolutely.
All right.
But
Okay. We can get back to. Do you want to do the
yeah.
video, or we could get back to talking to you
We can
about it
go ahead
specifically?
and I think we can probably move on. That way we're
Okay.
not, spending all the time watching videos.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the reason that I think the reason that we started talking about spoon theory was we were talking about my stream, and then I mentioned that I plan on having like a segment on my channel where I'm gonna invite folks within the Spoonie community to come on, and we're gonna talk about things in current events from the perspective of somebody that has a chronic illness. So not necessarily like a chronic illness topic, but in talking about things that are happening in the world today from the perspective of somebody who's living with a chronic illness or disability. That's how we can reach the folks that are healthy or can't really otherwise empathize with the situation and explain to them what it's like to live with our conditions in that moment within that context. So that's something I'm really looking forward to being able to do on my channel here soon. But I think that we got into that when we were talking about of course we covered the marriage penalty issue, and we were going to move on to we got into a topic of leftist disabled streamers. I think that's what that went to. But I've completely gone off the rails, and I apologize for the.
Oh no! It's me too. Like, I really gotta accept my part in it. Here, let me stop this that streaming. Yeah, what we were gonna move on to was the
Income limits, I think.
income limits. Yeah.
Yes. So under SSI, there are some limits that they impose on you once you've actually won your disability case, which by that point you've already gone through hell and you're exhausted, and that sucks. But then you learn that now that you're on SSI, you are a second-class citizen, and by that I mean you are not allowed to own more than $2,000 in any assets. There are some that are excluded, and I'm gonna post the rules here. This is from the Social Security Administration itself that explains all of these limits that you have to work within when you have SSI. So, as soon as you start getting SSI payments, if you're married, of course, you're going to have a penalty. They're going to take some money away from you. But if somebody tosses you more than $20 in a month, they're going to take that out of your SSI benefits. If you are having a hard time and your dad gives you $100 so that you can get some new clothes and some food, they will take that out of your SSI benefits, and you can get in serious shit if you don't report that. Not to mention the fact that it is hard as hell to get in touch with the Social Security Administration to report these things in the first place. Yeah, you can look through that list if you want and see all the ridiculous limits that they put on folks.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull it up so people could
Yeah.
hear you talking about it and see it. Yeah,
Yeah.
That coupled with, and I only, like, here's my ignorance. I only recently, during the fight that we of course lost for the $15 minimum wage, I only recently learned that there is there's a different and much lower minimum wage for disabled people, and
Oh yeah.
that is
Yeah, isn't that
shocking.
ridiculous?
That is
Yes,
shocking.
yes, you are shamed if you don't work when you're disabled. But
if you
because
do,
you're expected to overcome it. But if you do, you're going to get paid less, and that's totally cool by them.
and if you do work, they take what you make, which
Yes.
is still less than most people, out of your benefits. So
Now, disability isn't a binary thing. Like, there are some days where I do have energy that I could, go out and volunteer or, have a good time. I won my disability case because they determined that I could not obtain gainful employment due to the unpredictability of my symptoms and, how crappy my body is. And I don't I can't get out and actually, make use of those good energy days and make money for myself because I know that if I do, I'm just wasting spoons and wearing myself out, and they're going to take that money away from me anyway. So why bother?
Jesus, yeah. Oh shit. This one right here. This one is absolutely egregious. Certain exclusions on Indian trust fund payments paid to American Indians who are members of a federally recognized tribe. Just like, holy fuck.
I will say though that there's one part of this that's okay, or at least I'm okay with, or I mean, okay,
Yeah,
so
I'm sure there's some that
Twitch,
yeah, you gotta
sure.
like, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean,
I'm sorry.
like they won't take a, for instance, like this would be different if I were a bigger streamer, but once in a great while I'll get a Twitch payout, which is like $100, and because it's not a regular income, they don't count that as income. But like if I had a family member that was giving me money, like $100 a month or whatever to get food or whatever, if that was coming in on a regular basis, they would penalize me for that. But because it's not a regular piece of income, like my Twitch payouts, I don't have to report that actually, which is really nice. Now, if I get bigger and I start getting those on a regular basis, I will have to report that, and they will take it out of my $800
that's what
that
I
I
was
get.
gonna ask. That's what I was gonna
Yes.
ask. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I understand that too. Like as far as like not being a regular income, it's part of why like this is actually the first year that I claimed my stream. And I've been streaming for like 4 years. This is the first year that I claimed my stream on my taxes.
Oh yeah, nice.
And I was able to do a lot of write-offs, which is cool. Write off your internet, write off any computer upgrades. Always do that. Always do that, people.
Yes.
If you're going to do it, write that shit off. It really fucking helps.
I just bought a new monitor and I saved the receipt just in case. Like I don't expect that I'm gonna make it big, but if I do, I want to be prepared.
I did a lot of upgrades too this year. New green screen, new audio
Nice.
equipment, hard drives. I had to replace the hard drives. Headphones. There was a number of things that I did this year, so I was able to write off a lot. But yeah, it really becomes different when it becomes regular. The fact that they can then count that against you is nuts because the amount that you get paid on, first of all, Twitch is not consistent.
It's not substantial, yeah. Or
Yeah.
consistent, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And Soma's in chat actually makes a really good point. They said, imagine getting SSI and still needing food stamps to eat, yet they reduce your payout for both because you have SSI. That's a real thing. That just literally just
Yeah.
happened. I just had my food stamps reduced because they made an adjustment to SSI for cost of living.
Just insane. Just insane.
Yes.
Well, it's a good thing we voted blue. Sorry.
Indiana, get your game together.
Oh yeah, oh man.
Oh, it's hard. I mean, they don't call us the middle finger of the South for nothing.
Of the South?
Yeah, they call Indiana the middle finger of the South because the culture in Indiana is just, we might as well be Texas. It's shitty. Yeah.
I didn't care much for him, but I once worked with somebody who was from Indiana, and he described Indiana to me as like not being able to decide if they wanted to be all out racist or normal, something like that. It's like they don't know if they want to be Mississippi or Ohio. It's like, well, Ohio isn't great either, and he's like, exactly.
Dead ends everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, Praxis, absolutely. No, you're Praxis in the chat said I hate rare, but this part really does trap people into dependency. It really does. And like when you consider the fact that like the assets limit, which is also I've got a link to that as well. I'll drop that in the chat talking about the assets. But let me bring that up here. So when you're on SSI, you're not allowed to own more than $2,000 in any assets. That doesn't count the house that you live on or the land that you live on, but if you own any other land or stocks or bonds or savings accounts or life insurance policies.
What about a car?
More than $1,500. Well, you can have one car, but other than that, you let's see here. Here it is. Like I can't save back money for emergencies. I'm not allowed. Like I could have up to $2,000 in savings for emergencies, but in a serious financial situation, I would like $2,000 isn't going to keep you from being homeless for very long, right?
No, not at all. It's not going to keep you at all not being homeless,
Right.
especially per month.
Yes. So that $2,000 asset limit it's oppressive and it keeps you independency because I'm there's not a way for me to better myself. I for a while there I was really wanting to go to college just to keep my mind active, even though I knew that I wouldn't be able to keep up with all the classes. I knew that I would fall behind. I would very likely fail tests and miss classes because of my health, but I wanted to take classes anyway. And when I mentioned this to my disability lawyer, his response, and this is what sent me to therapy, his response was, "Well, if you can go to school, you're not disabled, and I will not support, I will not represent you." So I didn't go to college. So that's fun. So shit like that's what folks living on disability get to go through.
If you're able to go to school, you're not disabled.
Word for word what he told me.
That
Let that
is
sink in.
that is
I
such a
immediately
quote.
went to. I immediately checked I was ready to check myself into a mental institution. I went straight to a mental health clinic and said, I was in tears in the waiting room, and they got me in to see somebody. Luckily, I didn't have to be admitted, but I was ready to kill myself.
Yeah,
It was bad.
You don't want to go through that. My wife did, and
No.
she says that overall, the experience was good for her, but that part was awful, and she would never do it again. But she really liked the group therapy and wished that she could continue that.
Yeah.
But insurance won't pay for it.
Group therapy is one. Oh, yep. Well, the good news is there are lots of really great peer support groups out there, and I would really be happy to share those with you. Like the one that I run is great, but there's also back on the topic of virtual reality, there's this really awesome application called Help Club, which is multi-platform. So you can access it in VR, but you can also access it through their Steam client on your computer or through an iOS device. They've got a really nice, smooth application there as well. But they have peer support groups for literally anything that you can think of. And I'm actually getting ready to start one on there for them for folks within the chronic illness and disability community. Just I'm actually about to have the CEO come onto my podcast here soon to talk more about it, and I'm very excited about that. But my point is, group therapy is good. Reach out and find it. Whether your insurance will cover it or not, you can find a group to support you. But insurance is quite bullshit. Agreed.
Oh yeah. You'll get no disagreement here.
Yes.
I am a number one person who will rail hard against insurance companies.
Oh, I could rant.
I do all the time. It's pretty much the basis for a lot of my streams. Like I will build entire streams around bitching about the healthcare system.
And
working in it
here
as
for
long
it.
as I have, and I'm still like, even though I'm not working in it right now, like I'm going to school to then apply to nursing programs and a nursing program and get my associates in that. So like it's the only recession proof industry, and it is fucking garbage. It's so rewarding and so shit at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm
trying not to get too mad, but
yeah,
it's hard not to.
I completely understand. Yeah. But I just wanted to circle back to that about not being able to go to college. Like even online courses, they see that as, because you don't even have to leave your house.
It's complicated. Yeah, it's complicated. So when you're on SSI, they will assess you for whether or not you've been doing something that they consider substantial gainful activity. And they can I think it may have changed I haven't kept up with it recently, but for a while there, regardless of the activity that you were doing, whether it was volunteer work, whether or not you were getting paid or whatever, if you were putting a substantial amount of hours into something that could be tracked, they would count that against you. They would count that as substantial gainful activity, and you could lose benefits because of that.
Jesus.
Yeah. Now, I think that something recently has come up where they've excluded students from that, and there are even some programs listed on the SSA website that you were looking at earlier, where if you are a student, you can have up to a certain amount of funds in student loans, or not student loans, but like funds going towards your education that they will not count against you, which is nice. But there's
That's good.
still that fear that, what if they consider this substantial gainful activity? What would happen to,
And
my ability to pay the bills?
they're always looking for a reason, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, they want to save a buck. They don't care about your personal situation. If they can find a way to get you cut off from benefits, they will cut you off of it because Uncle Sam likes his purse strings tight.
Absolutely insane. I had no idea about the school thing. That legitimately caught me by surprise. Because like
Yeah.
even thinking about what I'm dealing with right now, like I'm going through this program in Michigan called Future for Frontliners. One of the few things that Gretchen Whitmer did well. And on top of them paying for my schooling up to an associate's, the benefits that I get, like I get a monthly stipend to help me balance out uh, work lost and things like that, and to pay for books and things like that. And I'm not going to put a dollar amount on it because it does change, but and also it's the whole thing, but it's more than the benefits that you're getting per month for your disability. And that's fucking ridiculous. That's insane.
Can we talk about universal basic income? That would totally solve the issue of people having to apply for disability in the first place.
Universal basic income is something that I've had, like, I wouldn't call it love-hate because it's just been kind of like a love.
No, I understand. It's very complex.
Yeah, love and slightly dislike, because I'm much more a fan of a jobs guarantee, but I do also recognize this is where I was having that ignorance again when I originally felt this way. Like, people would say, well, what about disabled people? You go, oh, well, yeah, of course. And then I started moving on it and saying, well, yeah, fuck it, do both. Like, because my big concern, my big concern is the thing that a lot of people complain about with UBI, where, like, okay, so they know you get this, landlords are going to jack up your rent that amount or something like that.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, the cost of living would definitely adjust to match it for sure.
That's the concern. But at the same time, you could put price controls in there to counteract that.
Yeah, I mean, there could be, like, you could apply for disability, and then that could disqualify those, things from taking effect on, your the income that you receive. I'm sure there's something that they could do for that, but the current system is just terrible. Having to go through such a long fight for a measly $800 a month. Come on.
Yeah, seriously.
And then get shamed for that, for not working once you're on that, because there's that stigma as well.
No fault of your own. Like, you didn't.
Right? Yeah, I was born literally missing parts of my brain. Right? So.
Jesus. Yeah. Universal basic income, I've definitely moved on. Obviously not Andrew Yang's version. Although, like, the way that I'm hearing it, like, honestly, there would be a lot of disabled people who would be doing a lot better under Andrew Yang's plan than what we got now. I don't know what that would mean long term, because, I mean, I believe the long term goal that he had, if he's going through the Milton Friedman school, is to slowly phase it out over time to get people completely off the independence. And it's just like, but you don't realize that people still are. Perfect example, the child tax credit.
Yes, praxis for sure.
The child tax credit. there's so many people, myself included, who were you know, it was very beneficial, and then it's just gone. And that's as close as we've ever had to universal basic income. And it was so effective in what it was doing to help families with children. And take that and give it to everybody. And just, we're told no. We see the positive results of it, and then we see the negative results of it going away, and there's no movement to return it back. And this is people who aren't disabled.
Right.
They're working, the working poor.
Yes.
Absolutely. Adding a disability on top of that, and the measly income you have, like, absolutely universal basic income all day, every day.
Yeah. Yep. And that's, I mean, I'm not super well educated on the ins and outs of like UBI and, you know, all the issues that could come with it, but like what Praxis said, or yeah, Praxis just said an actual 2K a month would be better than just SSI for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you, seriously, folks,
or just do both?
Look at all your bills. Look at all your bills. Can you survive off of $800 a month? Really?
I guarantee there's not a single person who could. I know I couldn't.
And of course we have assistance in the form of like HUD, like housing and urban development, and food stamps. But the amount of food stamps that I get, it was higher for a while there, thankfully, you know, because of the pandemic assistance. Now that's being phased out, and we're going back to our normal amount again. But I know somebody who is on SSI, the full amount of SSI, and getting the $800 a month, and their food stamps were only $50 for the whole month. I think right now mine are $78 for the whole month for food.
That's still so little.
Yep. And now, like I mentioned, like the housing and urban development, you could live in a place for free, which is really nice. But usually, there's you still have to pay a small amount towards your rent as well, and then of course you have to pay your bills. And then if you want nice things like internet and new shoes, you have to pay for that out of your SSI. By the end of the month, most folks living on SSI don't have any money. Like right now, I'm about to host a charity event for Rare Disease Day that I can't even donate to myself because I'm out of money for the month. So that's, and then I get shamed for not working, so that's fun.
I'd say ignore those assholes, but I know they're so nervous in this country that you can't just shut them out, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm guessing it's difficult to get out much with a disability. So like the internet is your window to the outside world. Absolutely. Most of the time.
Yeah, and I can tie that back into the VR thing too as well, because that's how I get out usually. Yep. So if I don't have my internet access, I am closed off from the world. Let's see. Let me think. How often do I leave the house? I do have a little gym that I go to walk on the treadmill a couple of times a day, just leisurely 15-minute walk, because exercise is important. Even disabled people need to exercise.
Who knew?
So I go to the gym, but other than that, maybe I'll go to the grocery store once a week, maybe twice a week if I'm super lucky. I really don't get out and do much else other than that. Part of a major part of that, of course, is the pandemic, because I do have a weakened immune system and I avoid crowds. But even before then, before the pandemic even happened, I just have a hard time getting around because, you know, I'm limited. I can't drive. We don't really have public transit in this town. So I'm stuck at home a lot. If I lost access to the internet, I would be so isolated. So isolated. And internet's not cheap.
No, it's not. No. Especially if you want to actually do
have
anything.
Good internet?
Yeah.
Yes. Now, I do pay a higher premium for my internet because I do want those gig speeds because I do stream. So it's like $90 a month for fiber.
I pay a lot more for Comcast because we don't have fiber here. But like we were getting by. When we first started streaming, we were streaming on AT&T DSL, and it seems fast until you actually try to do something with it, and then it ain't shit. Like immediately, it was like,
I have good internet. I'm grateful for it. But
yeah,
yeah.
we had to jump to the gig, and they immediately put a cap on it. And we're like, what the fuck? And they're like, well, if you want to take
Wow.
the cap off, you have to pay an extra $50 a month. We're like, God damn it, fine, yeah, okay. And we do everything. We stream all our entertainment, and we play games. You know, it's something like 150, 120, 150 a month right now. But like, and Comcast knows that we stream. They even give you one free box for your TV to do streaming software. It comes preloaded with a bunch of streaming shit, and it's all in 4K, and it's great. But if you're going to do that, then put a cap on it. Like, what the fuck? You know?
Yeah, they gotta squeeze all the money they can out of you. You
Yeah.
are a, you're their hostage. So
That's why I always, you know, I've recognized how much the internet has made, like, how much our life relies on an internet in the current day. So when,
even
like,
disregarding disability in general, like everybody relies on it for sure.
yeah, when I talk about like my perfect world socialism, you know, like necessities that are provided, people always look at me weird when I say internet. I'm like, think about, you can't even get a job, you can't even apply for a job without the internet. Like, when's the last time you filled out a paper application that wasn't like you're already at the interview and they're like, yeah, we just need you to fill this out? Like, that's all they use them for now, is just to have like a paper trail afterwards. But you apply online, you talk to them online. There are interviews that are being done online, and they're running everything off the internet too. So people who don't see the internet as a necessity for how things are, how we adjusted society in this way, are just absolutely blind and don't understand it at all, because the internet is not a luxury. It is the new telecommunications. It is the new window to the outside world, more than even just during the pandemic. The pandemic showed how much it can be, but you know what I'm saying.
I asked you something. Yeah, because when I was talking with my representative at the Social Security Administration that handles my case, I was talking to them about the bills that I have to pay and stuff, and I brought up the internet, and they said, we don't count that. They don't consider internet or phone bill as essential. So if you're disabled, you're just expected to sit at home by yourself and do shit all.
Learn to knit.
I actually love arts and crafts. Can't knit. I've tried.
I was joking.
I don't enjoy it.
I was joking
No,
as like the suggestion they were saying, but like still, it's just like, but like even then, if you learn to knit and you try to like sell it, any income you get from that, you gotta, it's gonna eat up your.
If you make more than $20 off of those mittens, you gotta report it.
Yeah. So then you either have to fully commit to it being a business, or take the hit every now and then on your SSI benefits, or not do it at all, which is actually the more.
That's what they expect you to do.
Yeah. Man.
Yeah, like I said, why bother? If I'm going to put the energy into something and potentially make myself sick doing it, even though I really want to, because I could choose to sacrifice my health and how well I feel day to day and my overall energy levels to do something that I consider to be fulfilling and productive and make a little bit of money on the side. But why would I make myself sick if they're just going to nullify that money that I've gained?
Correct.
What's the point?
Absolutely correct. Yeah.
I'll sit home and do essentially nothing and feel well. That's the choice that I've decided to make. Because I have the other option is be sick, not make much money, and still be shamed for not doing more. That's the reality.
Just insane. That's we can hope all we want for society to change, and it's going to be a long fight. But messages like this, and you're not like an outlier either.
No, 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 I'm not an extreme case at all by
Yeah.
any means.
You're like the general case. So the fact that not a lot of people know these stories and it's not getting out there. There needs to be more of that. We need to have people fighting for it just as hard as we're fighting for anything else. And the fight's going to be long. And we might only get small wins here and there, but
there's a bill. There's legislation currently that's being considered that would get rid of the marriage penalty and make adjustments to the SSI program overall. It's called the SSI Restoration Act. I believe that's what it's called.
that's a
It's
federal
currently
bill.
stalled.
It's a federal bill.
Yes, it is currently stalled. But you can look it up. I can't remember exactly what the bill number is. But a quick Google search for the SSI Restoration Act of 2022 should find that.
Do you know what stalled it, or?
All I saw last I checked on it was that it was just. I think it was just labeled as stalled in the process. I don't know what the reasoning for it is.
So,
but it would fix a lot of these issues.
So has it passed the House or anything?
I don't remember.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I'm so sorry. I wish I had more information on it off the top of my head, but I don't. But you can do a Google search and look it up on your own if you guys want to.
I feel like Joe Manchin would like shit his pants and just scream, "No!
They can't have money. What? No rights.
If they want money, they can go back to work." Yeah.
Yeah.
We've already been over that. Why that's ridiculous.
Quell thy rage.
I really appreciate you coming on and telling everybody about this, and
no, I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that. Thank you.
Of course. You're I think you're the second person that I've had show up for these conversations, and they're I'm going to be doing more of these. I'm trying to book out every Wednesday. I have somebody for next week, and I'm working on one. I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's going to be a fun one. We're going to be talking about the movement for a People's Party.
Oh, nice.
Some people might have an idea of who I'm going to have on for that. But yeah, the original founder of the People's Party, who has been making his rounds in a lot of leftist chats, gets really people.
Praxis, yeah, that seems to be the general consensus.
Yeah. People seem to lump him in with Nick Brana and that cohort, but he was actually one of the originators, him and his wife. And after his wife died, they just basically took it over and co-opted the whole thing and turned it into the mess that it is now. And I would love to hear that story. I would love to hear what it's turning into now. And I also want to talk about like third parties and what the realistic goal of them is, and various things like that.
And whether or not they're even viable in our current system.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we got that coming up, and God, I hope they're just as good as this, because this was fantastic. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, man.
Anytime
you want me to come on, just please.
Anytime you want to update us on anything else regarding disabled rights, please go ahead, hit me up. We'll do this every Wednesday. We'll get that all figured out. Like, absolutely.
Thank you, man. I really, really appreciate it. I think that, this might make a difference, right?
I hope
Fingers
so.
crossed. Yes. And you'll, of course, always see me in the chat because I love your show.
I appreciate that. There, so. Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thanks so much. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. You too. Thank you, man. Take care.
Bye. Wow. Like, I knew I was going to learn some things, but just absolutely wow. Like, I'm going to need some time to process that after this stream. Because holy shit, I didn't know about the school thing. I I knew somewhat about the $2,000 a month assets. That's something else. That's something else, guys. Exactly. And please give Insomnia a follow. Hopefully they can stream more. And if they're going to be making a regular income from Twitch, make them really big so that they don't have all, like, if their SSI gets cut, it'll be completely circumvented by how much they make on streaming. Like, it's just not 2K a month, 2K pure. Jesus fucking Christ. I haven't stopped the recording yet either, because like I knew there was going to be some stuff that pops up. I appreciate that so much, and fucking Christ, man. Like, what else is there to say? Absolutely amazed. And we need to fix these things. We need to recognize that these things are going on. I recognize that we can't be everywhere at once. We can't concentrate everywhere at once. But if something's available to jump on, we need to do it. We need to pay attention to it, because the disabled community is one that we ignore a little bit too much in this weird online space that we've carved out for ourselves. So let's do that. I don't know how else to end this, the video, but just, man, what the fuck is wrong with us? Let's fix this shit. Jesus Christ. Hey, it's Mark and Eli. I hope you're doing well. Hope you liked the video. If you liked it, why don't you like, comment, and subscribe? My child may stop picking on me.